Let me ask you something. What if the one thing most people over 65 are drinking every single morning is quietly making their circulation worse, draining their energy, and setting them up for serious health problems down the road? And what if, at the same time, there is one specific morning drink that research shows can do the exact opposite, improve blood flow, boost natural energy levels, and actually support the cardiovascular system in a way that most people never hear about from their doctor? I know that sounds like a big claim, so stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this matters so much after the age of 65, what is happening inside your body that makes this so important, and which morning drink we are talking about, including the right way to prepare it, and the one mistake almost everyone makes that cancels out most of the benefit. And I promise you, this is not what you are probably expecting. So do not skip ahead, because the part most people miss is actually the most important part, and it comes a little later in the video. Here is something that most people do not realize. After the age of 65, the human body goes through a very specific and measurable change in how blood moves through the arteries and smaller blood vessels. It is not just about blood pressure numbers on a chart, it is about something called vascular stiffness, which is essentially when the walls of your blood vessels lose flexibility and become harder and less responsive. When your blood vessels are stiff, your heart has to work harder to push blood through them. Less oxygen reaches your muscles and your brain. Your hands and feet feel cold more often. Your energy drops even when you sleep enough. Your thinking feels slower and foggier, and your recovery from even light physical activity takes longer. This is happening silently in millions of Americans over 65 every single day. And here's the part that really gets me. A lot of people just accept it as normal aging. But it is not entirely inevitable. And the research over the last decade has been very clear that what you drink in the morning, specifically within the first hour of waking up, can either make this vascular stiffness worse or actively work against it. Now, before I tell you what the drink is, I want to explain something important about why the morning window specifically matters so much for circulation. When you wake up in the morning, your body is in a state of mild dehydration. You just went 6, 7, maybe 8 hours without drinking anything. During that time, your blood becomes slightly more viscous, which means it gets thicker. Thicker blood moves through your vessels more slowly and with more friction. For someone over 65 who already has some degree of vascular stiffness, that combination, thicker blood plus stiffer vessels, is genuinely hard on the cardiovascular system. Studies from the American Heart Association have shown that the early morning hours are when heart attacks and strokes are statistically most common. And one of the contributing factors is exactly this. The blood is at its thickest and the vascular system is at its most stressed right after waking up. So what you put into your body first thing in the morning is not just a preference or a comfort ritual, it is actually a real physiological decision that affects how your entire cardiovascular system performs for the rest of the day. And here is where the common mistake comes in. Most Americans over 65 wake up and immediately reach for coffee. Now, I want to be very careful here because I am not telling you to eliminate your morning coffee, and I am definitely going to come back to that point. But the issue is not coffee itself. The issue is what happens when coffee is the very first thing you put in your body, before water, before anything else. Caffeine is a mild vasoconstrictor, which means it causes blood vessels to narrow slightly. On top of blood that is already thicker from overnight dehydration, and vessels that already have some natural stiffness from age, that first cup of coffee on an empty stomach is essentially adding a third layer of circulatory stress right at the moment when your body is most vulnerable. And most people feel this without realizing what it is. That slightly anxious, heart-racing, jittery feeling after your first cup of coffee in the morning. That is often your cardiovascular system telling you it is under stress. And over years and decades, that pattern adds up. So what is the morning drink we are talking about? It is warm water with a specific combination of ingredients that research has shown to support vascular health, improve blood flow, and provide a natural and sustained energy boost, particularly in people over 65. And the core of this drink is something you almost certainly already have in your kitchen. It starts with warm water, not hot, not cold, specifically warm. And the reason that temperature matters is genuinely fascinating. Warm water, when consumed in the morning, helps your digestive system activate without the thermal shock that very hot water can cause to the esophagus. More importantly, warm water has been shown to improve blood viscosity more effectively than cold water in the morning hours. A study published in a cardiovascular research journal found that warm water consumption in the morning improved microcirculation, which is the blood flow through your smallest vessels, more effectively than cold water. This matters enormously for people over 65 because the small vessels in the extremities, the heart muscle itself, and the brain are often the first places where circulation starts to decline. Improving microcirculation helps with everything from cold hands and feet to brain fog to unexplained fatigue. Now here's the first addition to that warm water, and this one surprises a lot of people. A half to a full teaspoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. I know some of you just made a face. But let me explain the actual science behind this because it is worth understanding. Apple cider vinegar contains something called acetic acid, and when acetic acid enters your digestive system, it triggers a sequence of metabolic responses that have been studied quite extensively over the last 15 years. One of the most relevant findings for circulation and energy in older adults is the effect acetic acid has on something called AMPK, which stands for AMP-activated protein kinase. Without getting too deep into the biochemistry, AMPK is essentially an enzyme that acts like a master energy switch in your body. When it is activated, your cells become more efficient at producing energy. Your body becomes better at using blood sugar for fuel instead of storing it, and this is the circulation part, your blood vessels receive signals that support relaxation and better blood flow. Research from the Journal of Functional Foods showed that regular apple cider vinegar consumption was associated with measurable improvements in blood pressure and arterial function in adults with borderline hypertension. For people over 65 who are managing blood pressure or simply want to protect their cardiovascular health, this is meaningful. But the apple cider vinegar is only one part of this drink. The second ingredient is what really takes this combination to a different level for blood flow specifically, and it is something that has been used in traditional medicine for centuries, but has recently gotten serious scientific attention. That ingredient is a small amount of ground turmeric, about a quarter teaspoon, combined with a tiny pinch of black pepper. Now, if you have heard of turmeric before, you have probably heard it described as an anti-inflammatory spice, and that is accurate. But the specific mechanism that matters for circulation in people over 65 goes deeper than general inflammation. The active compound in turmeric is called curcumin, and curcumin has been shown in multiple peer-reviewed studies to improve what scientists call endothelial function. The endothelium is the thin layer of cells that lines the inside of your blood vessels. When the endothelium is healthy and functioning well, it produces a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is one of the most powerful natural vasodilators your body makes, meaning it signals your blood vessels to relax and widen, which directly improves blood flow. As people age, endothelial function naturally declines, which is one of the main reasons circulation gets worse after 65. Curcumin has been shown to essentially help maintain and partially restore endothelial function, and studies have found improvements in blood flow comparable to some aerobic exercise protocols. The reason you add black pepper is very specific. It contains a compound called piperine that increases the absorption of curcumin by the body by up to 2,000%. Without the black pepper, most of the curcumin passes through your system without being absorbed. That is the mistake most people make when they try turmeric on its own. The black pepper is not optional. Now, I want to talk about the energy side of this drink because I know a lot of you watching are dealing with that particular kind of fatigue that hits differently after 65. It is not the same as being tired after a long day. It is more like a background exhaustion that is just always there, a heaviness in the body, a lack of drive or motivation in the morning, feeling like it takes forever to actually wake up and feel human. A significant portion of that kind of fatigue in people over 65 is directly connected to circulation. When blood flow is compromised, even mildly, the muscles in the brain receive slightly less oxygen and slightly fewer nutrients than they need to operate at full capacity. It is like trying to run a car engine on 80% of the fuel it needs. The car still runs, but it runs sluggishly, it lacks power, and over time the engine wears faster. When you improve circulation, when you reduce blood viscosity and support vascular flexibility, you are essentially giving your body more of the raw material it needs to generate energy. And that is what makes this morning drink different from an energy supplement or even coffee. It is not stimulating your nervous system to feel artificially alert. It is actually improving the underlying delivery system that your body uses to produce real cellular energy. People who make this drink consistently for 3 to 4 weeks often describe the change not as a sudden burst of energy, but as a gradual return to feeling more like themselves, more capable, more clear-headed, more willing to move and engage with life. The third ingredient is something that many doctors and cardiologists are now recommending for older adults specifically, and it adds another layer of circulatory and cardiovascular support to this morning drink. That ingredient is a small amount of raw honey, about half a teaspoon. And before you think about sugar, let me stop you there, because raw honey is genuinely different from refined sugar in ways that matter for circulation and overall health. Raw honey contains a rich profile of antioxidants including flavonoids and phenolic acids that have been shown to reduce oxidative stress in the vascular system. Oxidative stress is one of the primary drivers of vascular aging. It damages the walls of blood vessels over time, contributes to arterial stiffness, and promotes inflammation. Research published in the journal Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity found that regular consumption of raw honey was associated with measurable reductions in markers of oxidative stress in older adults. The key word here is raw. Pasteurized honey that has been heat-treated loses a large portion of these beneficial compounds. The honey you want is the kind that looks slightly cloudy or crystallized, that comes from a local beekeeper, or is labeled as raw and unfiltered. Now here is how you actually make this drink, and I want to be very specific because the order and temperature matter. You start with about 8 to 10 ounces of water that is warm but not boiling, ideally around 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is slightly warmer than body temperature but cool enough to hold comfortably. You add the half teaspoon of raw apple cider vinegar first and stir. Then you add the quarter teaspoon of ground turmeric and the pinch of black pepper and stir again. Finally, you add the raw honey last, after the water has had a moment to cool slightly if needed, because very high temperatures can degrade some of the beneficial enzymes in raw honey. You drink this on an empty stomach before your coffee, before breakfast, ideally within the first 15 to 20 minutes of waking up. The whole preparation takes about 2 minutes, and importantly, after drinking this, you wait at least 20 to 30 minutes before having your coffee if you still want it. That window allows your body to rehydrate, allows the blood viscosity to normalize, and gives the vasodilatory signals from the turmeric and apple cider vinegar time to do their work before you introduce caffeine. Now I want to address something directly because I know some of you are thinking it. Is this safe if you are on medications? This is genuinely important, and I want to give you a real answer. Apple cider vinegar can interact with certain diabetes medications because it affects blood sugar regulation. So if you are on insulin or diabetes medication, speak with your doctor before adding this to your daily routine. Turmeric in small culinary amounts is generally considered safe, but if you are on blood thinners like warfarin, larger doses of turmeric can have a mild additive effect. So again, a quick conversation with your doctor is worth having. For the majority of people over 65 who are in generally stable health and want a simple, natural, evidence-supported way to support their circulation and energy in the morning, this drink presents very little risk. But your individual health situation always matters, and no general recommendation replaces the advice of the doctor who knows your specific history. I also want to talk about what to realistically expect when you start making this drink consistently. The first thing most people notice, usually within the first week, is improved digestion and a more settled stomach in the morning. The acetic acid in the apple cider vinegar supports stomach acid production, which declines naturally with age and is a major contributor to bloating, indigestion, and nutrient malabsorption in older adults. The second thing people tend to notice, usually around weeks 2 to 3, is a gradual improvement in energy levels and mental clarity throughout the morning hours. And the circulation benefits, warmer extremities, less brain fog, improved physical stamina during light activity, these tend to build over the course of 3 to 6 weeks of consistent use, because vascular health improvements take time to develop at the cellular level. One last thing I want to add before we wrap up, and this is something I think is genuinely underappreciated. The ritual of this drink matters almost as much as the ingredients. The act of taking 5 minutes first thing in the morning to do something intentional for your health sets a psychological and physiological tone for the rest of the day. It sends your body a signal that you are taking care of it. It creates a moment of calm and intention before the noise of the day starts. And for people over 65 who are navigating a lot of changes in their bodies and their lives, having a simple, powerful daily anchor for their health is something that compounds in ways that go well beyond what any single ingredient can do. Health is built in the small daily choices that nobody else sees, and a 2-minute morning drink that actually supports your vascular system and your energy is one of the simplest and most accessible choices you can make. Now, I really want to hear from you. Have you ever tried apple cider vinegar, turmeric, or any version of a warm morning drink for your health? Did you notice any difference? Or maybe you have been struggling with low energy or circulation issues in the morning, and this is the first time you have heard an explanation for what might actually be causing it. Drop your experience in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know what is working for people and what questions you still have. And if you have a friend or a family member over 65 who is dealing with fatigue or circulation problems, please share this video with them. It might be exactly the simple, practical answer they have been looking for. If this kind of honest, research-backed health information is something you want more of, make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you never miss a new video. I will see you in the next one.